Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the closet side of my van. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my thoughts on why the act of creating is such a powerful experience and how creating my own work has changed how I consume other people's work. I feel really good about where I am now, and I think a big part of that feeling is due to the lifestyle shift of creating more than consuming. So let me take you on a short exploration on why I think there can be a burden to only consuming and why I think there's so much value to creating. So I'm going to start out by showing you what my week looks like. So on a typical day, I would wake up in my van, get up, brush my teeth, shave my non-existent facial hair, wash my face, and then get dressed. And from that, I am ready to enter the world and into a coffee shop. This is where a big chunk of my day takes place. About 5 to 6 days out of the week, I sit down in a coffee shop to write for my videos. I get to be alone in my thoughts, but also pretend to not be alone because I see and hear people around me. In my opinion, this is existential bliss. I get to think and write deeply about anything I want and get the special privilege to eventually share those thoughts with you. Now, writing is a solitary experience, but when I write with the intent to share, I don't feel alone when I write. Now, here's a thought. Can there be value in creating something without the intention of sharing that creation? And I think yes, because personal growth is an inevitable byproduct of the creative process. Even if there's no book published, music for someone to listen to, art for someone to look at, we will be transformed by our struggle to create. And the people in our lives will witness that personal growth that comes with that struggle. But in order to struggle when creating, we have to push ourselves to the edge of what we can accomplish. That is the only place in which growth comes from. Now, important side note, this video about the creative process has been a fun side video. I've been working on a much bigger video the past 6 months that God only knows when I'll finish. But the growth that has occurred thus far by creating what will be the most ambitious creation of mine has been so valuable that it doesn't matter what the results are in the future. If this was a game, then I've already won. This video took me down a direction that I was not expecting, and I'm continuing to let it lead me down a road that I've never been on. And I'm looking forward to the time when I'm ready to share it. Anyway, back to my weekly routine. So what do I do when I'm not writing? Well, every Tuesday evening, I get to be around people that I actually know instead of being around strangers all the time. This is my young adults church group that meets once a week. We enjoy food together, talk about the Bible, share our struggles, all in an effort to do life together. Let me introduce you to some of the cool people that I get to hang out with. This is Troy, and this is Andrew, Jack, Chase, and this is Molly, Sarah, and Gabby. So I'm not Christian, but I've been going to churches by my own will for the past 6 years because I think the community aspects of churches are amazing. Honestly, the best life hack, period, is finding a church when I move to a new city because it is instant, reliable community. In a world that has gotten so disconnected, every time I find community and friendships, it feels like I'm striking gold. And not to get too deep into my thoughts on Christianity or why I don't believe, but the whole concept of Christianity has continued to defy my expectations the more I learn about it. The Bible's depiction of the human experience through this narrative of the struggle and then reconciliation between God and humanity has been a fascinating thing for me to slowly learn about. And it has, without a doubt, influenced my writing. So yeah, every week I look forward to Tuesday evenings because I get to hang out with genuinely some of the best people I know, and I am happy to call them my friends. Now, what does any of this have to do with being a creator? Well, when we create, we start finding inspiration everywhere we look. Everything that passes through our senses is now information that can inspire something we're creating. The relationships we have, the stuff we see, the books we read, it also is a way for digital consumption to transform from being meaningless to being meaningful because it can be a source of inspiration. Also, creating shouldn't feel like a pressure, but an urge to use our consciousness in a way that invokes awe to the self. There is a beauty in creation that cannot be witnessed anywhere else. When we create, we use our minds to literally bend reality to actualize something that never existed before. That's why witnessing creation is so powerful. We stand in awe at the great works of others, so why not create something ourselves? And not to try to outdo anyone, but to simply participate in something truly special that we all have the opportunity to participate in. Anyway, so Tuesday evenings are great, and I wish all my evenings were like Tuesday evenings. But that'd be too much of a good thing, I guess. So a good day is when I get some writing done in the mornings and afternoon. A really good day is when I finish writing and then spend time with people in the evening. But some days I have nothing to do in the evening and I will be stuck in my van with nothing interesting to do. This is obviously boring and I usually spend it on my phone. Sometimes when I feel bored, I think to myself, I love the work that I am doing and I can pour as many hours as I'd like into my work. So shouldn't I be working every single waking hour instead of wasting it to boredom? No, absolutely not, because that would be an endless stream of asking myself, what more can I be doing? Despite my work giving me meaning, working constantly would burn anyone out. And then I'd end up stopping short of where my work would take me. And I don't hustle in order to survive, so resting becomes very important. And hustling for the sake of hustling is meaningless. So instead of sabotaging myself by adopting an unhealthy workload, I take a break from work by reminding myself of how boring life is without work. Now, being on my phone isn't always bad. Like I said before, we can draw inspiration from anywhere, even digital content. So I've been watching YouTube since 2008, and it has been without a doubt a net positive force in my life. And I've had videos inspire me deeply, and most of my education came from YouTube and not traditional schools. But being on my phone can't be the only thing I do in my free time, because I also crave mindless entertainment, and that stuff robs hours away from me while adding very little value to my life. So to avoid being on my phone every time I'm resting, I go on walks, or ever since I got a bike small enough to fit in my van, I go on bike rides. Sometimes I call friends to catch up with them. Sometimes when I'm really bored, I put up flyers in public to make friends. That's how I met my friend Itzel.
Yeah, it's the end of the week.
It's Good Friday. All right.
It's the end of the week. It's time to relax.
Okay. I'll meet you guys in downtown.
No!
What is open? Nothing is
The Hammock
Yeah,
Bar.
what downtown for what?
And my friend Chris.
Yeah, and I knew we were gonna be friends when both of us were grown men, just bawling our eyes out
Oh,
in the middle
man.
of a coffee shop
man,
together.
that was crazy.
Like an hour after meeting each other, just sharing stories that were so touching to ourselves and each other.
Now, here's a really, really important thing to know. I am way more disciplined and conscious of how I spend my day when I'm living in my van versus living in any traditional housing. When I wake up in my van. I am motivated to get out of this toaster-shaped house and into a coffee shop so I can start working. Now, I don't mind hanging out in my van, but the thought of never leaving my van the whole day is pretty unpleasant. So if I live in a house where it's comfortable to hang out in all day long, I will stay home for the whole week without leaving. And when I'm in a house, I will indulge in my greatest guilty pleasure, which is video game content. So I can waste my whole day watching something like Twitch because there's no one around to judge me. I'm home, I'm relaxing, a little bit of indulgence won't hurt, right? No, it never works that way. Because 30 minutes of indulgence always turns into 3, 6, sometimes even 10 hours. But if I'm in a coffee shop, I wouldn't dare watch videos about video games because there's strangers around me and they give me the accountability that I apparently need constantly in order to get work done. Working in my van, waking up in my van motivates me to leave my home, and having strangers around me while I'm working keeps me on track. So if anyone thinks that I am naturally disciplined, I'm not. I just found a way to hack my mind into doing the things that I wanted to do, which does make me wonder if true discipline is what I imagine it to be. Perhaps not. So when I go about my day, I try my best to find meaning in my work and also in rest by aligning it with something that I value. When I do this in combination with having the privilege to engross myself in the creative process on a daily basis, I find meaning everywhere. And finding meaning in work and in rest are kind of two different things. If I would sum up how I think anyone would find meaning in any type of work, is to find a reason to work that is more than just for the self. And work in of itself does not have to be pleasurable to be meaningful. It'd be nice if the work is pleasurable, but if we aim for meaningful work, then happiness will follow. It's never the other way around. And to sum up how I think you find meaning in any rest is basically to just find anything to break up the monotony of work with something fun, but also something aligned with something we value. When I try to seek meaning in what I do, I am not trying to prove anything to anyone, because otherwise that'd be inauthentic. I do it because I give the respect my future self deserves by caring about what I am doing in the present. I do this by treating my future self as if it's another person, because it kind of is. If we picture our future selves as a better version of our current self, that future self doesn't exist yet. It's fictional. I also think about the future friends and family that I will meet in the future. They're also fictional. So in the mornings when I don't feel like getting up, I think about the good that I hope to do in the future for my future self and for the future friends and family. And I think this is basically like a mental construct that I'm able to derive hope from. I have hope for my future because I am willing to struggle for a future with people that I will care about. Even if these people are fictional now, they will become actualized in the future. So because I mentioned inauthenticity earlier, it made me think of an Aesop fable that I read recently. So I'll go ahead and read that out for you guys. The fable is called The Ass in the Lion's Skin. Ass as in donkey, not the gluteus. So the fable reads, an ass, having put on a lion's skin, roaming about, frightening all the silly animals he met with. Seeing a fox, he tried to alarm him also. But Renard, having heard his voice, said, "Well, to be sure, and I should have been frightened too if I had not heard you bray." They who assumes a character that does not belong to them generally betrays themselves. So I had to look up what the word bray meant, and it just means to utter a sound like a donkey. So the donkey was being inauthentic, and now inauthenticity can be a really sneaky thing because I've definitely been inauthentic without knowing it. I assumed a character that was not mine, just like the donkeys. For example, I acted, sometimes when I'm around people, I act in a specific way that's kind of like a hyperbolized version of myself. What I would do is like, I would start exaggerating how loud I'm laughing or try to be more animated in my speech, kind of like right now, in order to make people like me more. I've learned to recognize that this is being inauthentic and also manipulative. And if I'm laughing and being loud with my speech, because I'm genuinely excited about talking to the person I'm talking to, then that is very good because it's authentic. It becomes inauthentic as soon as I try to make others think a certain way about me. And that is always a mistake, to be inauthentic, because it harms the person being inauthentic because it paints a false image, masking anyone's true identity, which will isolate them because others will not know who they truly are. And it can harm the witnesses that believe in the false image because, in the worst case, mislead others to believe a false concept of a human experience to the point where they start chasing that false image. So don't be an ass. Okay, so to go back to my thoughts on the power of creation. So I'm just gonna close it off with reiterating my main point about the act of creation, and it's this. I think that when a person adopts a creative mentality in a everyday sense, they gain the ability to consume in meaningful ways. Anything we read, watch, or feel becomes meaningful and can become a source of inspiration. There is a burden to consuming in meaningless ways because it can grab our attention for hours and hours without giving us any meaning. And that is a shame when meaning is all around us. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I have a couple of important announcements. Community is a huge value of mine, so that's why I host meetups to bring you together with other members of this YouTube community. I host online and in-person meetups every 5th Saturday of the month, which, if you didn't know, naturally occurs 4 times a year. So I will have a way for people to join a video call so that anyone in the world can join, as well as an in-person meetup for anyone that is around where I am physically located on a 5th Saturday. And so that information you can find on all my social medias. I will announce all that stuff, as well as the community tab on my YouTube page. Another announcement, I am working on my website, storiesfrommyvan.com. I will be selling apparel and other things that I am currently working on. Right now the site is not up, but it will be up in the future. So hopefully by the time you're watching it, it will be up. So lots of things slowly in the works. Things just naturally take longer when you work solo, but you know, that's what makes it worth it in the end. But yeah, if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, subscribe, click the bell so you get push notifications or emails or whatever you like to get notified when I upload. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this video was valuable to you in some way. So yeah, have a good one. An ass, having put on a lion skin, roaming around, frightening all the silly animals he had met with. Fuck.